Welcome back to Official Top 5. Today we are going over the top 5 real scary camping trip stories. Sit back, grab a snack and hit the subscribe button. 5. The Disappearance at Glacier National Park. In the summer of 2018, a group of friends, Mark, Lisa, Jake, and Sarah, set off for a long-awaited camping trip in Glacier National Park, Montana. They were excited to hike the trails, take in the breathtaking views, and share stories around the campfire. The park was known for its stunning landscapes but also for its unpredictable weather and rugged terrain. On the second day of their trip, the group decided to tackle one of the park's more challenging hikes, a trail that led to a stunning overlook. As they hiked, they laughed and took pictures, admiring the breathtaking scenery. However, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, they realized it was time to turn back. As they retraced their steps, Sarah fell behind, captivated by a cluster of wildflowers. The others urged her to catch up, but she waved them off, promising to be right behind them. As the group reached the campsite, they waited for Sarah, but she never arrived. Panicking, they returned to the trail, calling her name. Hours passed, and darkness fell, casting eerie shadows among the trees. They alerted park rangers, who initiated a search and rescue operation that lasted for days. Despite the efforts of volunteers and helicopters scanning the area, Sarah was nowhere to be found. Weeks later, when hope was dwindling, a hiker stumbled upon a small clearing not far from the trail. In the center, they found Sarah's backpack, untouched but eerily positioned as if it had been placed there deliberately. The search resumed, but no signs of Sarah were ever recovered. To this day, her disappearance remains a chilling mystery, and the park is often whispered about among campers as a place where something sinister can happen. 4. The Haunted Woods of New Jersey. Nestled within the Pine Barrens of New Jersey lies a dense forest known for its haunting legends and the infamous Jersey Devil. A group of adventurous friends, Mike, Jenna, Tom, and Lisa, decided to explore this eerie area, drawn by the stories of ghostly encounters and strange happenings. They set up camp in a secluded area surrounded by towering pines. As darkness fell, they gathered around the campfire, sharing tales of the Jersey Devil and other local folklore. The air was thick with tension as they recounted stories of ghostly apparitions that had been seen wandering the woods. As the night deepened, the atmosphere shifted. They began to hear rustling sounds in the underbrush, followed by what sounded like distant, echoing howls. The friends exchanged nervous glances but brushed it off as wildlife. However, when a large shadow darted between the trees, fear settled into their hearts. Deciding to investigate, they grabbed their flashlights and ventured into the woods. The deeper they went, the more intense the feeling of being watched became. Suddenly, they stumbled upon a series of strange markings carved into the trees, symbols they didn't recognize. Their unease grew as they realized they were not alone. The rustling intensified, and they could hear footsteps closing in on them. Panic set in, and they sprinted back to their campsite, but as they reached it, they found their belongings scattered and their tent slashed open. They quickly packed up and fled the woods, haunted by the feeling that something had been stalking them throughout the night. As they recounted the experience to others, they learned that the area had a dark history, with locals warning about the dangers of the haunted woods. 3. The Mysterious Campfire Stories of the New Hampshire Woods. In the summer of 1975, a group of college friends, Rachel, Eric, Jess, and Tom, planned a camping trip in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. They were excited to escape the hustle and bustle of campus life and immerse themselves in the great outdoors. After a long drive, they arrived at a remote campsite by a serene lake, surrounded by towering trees and breathtaking views. As the sun set, they gathered around the campfire to share ghost stories. One tale in particular caught their attention, the story of an abandoned cabin hidden deep within the woods, said to be haunted by the spirits of a family who had mysteriously disappeared years earlier. The group decided that they would seek out the cabin the following day, eager for adventure. The next morning, armed with flashlights and snacks, they set off into the woods, following an overgrown trail. After hours of hiking, they finally stumbled upon the cabin, its windows boarded up and the door hanging off its hinges. As they stepped inside, a chill ran down their spines. Dust covered the floor, and old photographs hung crookedly on the walls, depicting a family that once lived there. While exploring, they found an old journal filled with frantic writings about strange occurrences that had plagued the family before their disappearance. They were captivated until they heard a loud bang outside, causing them to jump. When they rushed outside, they were met with silence, but the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. As they prepared to leave, Jess noticed something odd. The door had slammed shut behind them, locking them inside. Panic set in as they struggled to open it. They finally forced it open and bolted into the woods, but as they ran, they could hear whispers in the trees, their names being called. They didn't stop until they reached their campsite, where they found their belongings untouched, but a sinister feeling lingered in the air. That night, they decided to leave early, convinced that the spirits of the cabin had been watching them. The experience left them shaken, and they never spoke of that day again. Years later, they still share their ghost stories around campfires, shivering at the memory of the whispers that haunted them in the woods. 2. The Vanishing Campers of Yosemite. In the summer of 1999, a family of 4, the Johnsons, set out for a camping trip in the majestic Yosemite National Park. They were seasoned campers, excited to explore the park's stunning landscapes, towering waterfalls, and lush trails. They set up camp near a picturesque lake, enjoying the peaceful surroundings and the thrill of being in nature. On their second night, they decided to take a break from hiking and enjoy a quiet evening by the fire. Their youngest son, Tommy, a spirited 7-year-old, asked if he could explore the nearby woods. The parents, confident in their son's adventurous spirit, allowed him to wander but instructed him to stay close. They watched as he scampered off, thinking nothing of it. However, as darkness fell, Tommy didn't return. The family called his name, growing increasingly anxious as they searched the area. When they couldn't find him, they alerted park rangers, who quickly organized a search party. As night descended, the park was lit by flashlights, and the atmosphere became tense with worry. Days passed, and the search continued. Helicopters flew overhead, search dogs scoured the area, and volunteers joined the effort, but there was no sign of Tommy. Just as hope began to dwindle, a hiker stumbled upon a small trail leading away from the main campsite. Following it, he found Tommy sitting quietly on a log, disoriented but unharmed. When the family was reunited, they were overjoyed but confused. Tommy claimed he had been playing with a group of other children, but no one else was ever found. The park rangers investigated further, but there were no records of other campers in the area. The family left the park shaken, haunted by the mystery of Tommy's disappearance and the feeling that they had crossed paths with something inexplicable in the wilderness. 1. The Abduction at the Grand Canyon. In 2012, a couple, Sarah and Mike, decided to take a romantic camping trip to the Grand Canyon, eager to experience the breathtaking views and tranquility of the vast landscape. They set up camp at a popular site, surrounded by towering cliffs and the sound of the breeze rustling through the trees. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they settled by the campfire, sharing stories and roasting marshmallows. That night, they noticed a figure lurking in the shadows, watching them from a distance. Initially, they dismissed it as another camper, but the figure didn't move. As darkness enveloped the canyon, they felt a growing sense of unease. When they decided to turn in for the night, they locked their tent securely, trying to shake off the feeling that someone was watching them. Around midnight, they were jolted awake by a loud rustling noise outside their tent. Mike unzipped the tent flap slightly to peer out, and his heart raced when he saw the same figure standing just a few feet away, staring at them. Fearing for their safety, they decided to stay quiet, hoping the figure would leave. But then, they heard a voice calling for help, a man claiming to be lost and in desperate need of assistance. Against their better judgment, they unzipped the tent and cautiously stepped outside. The man appeared disheveled and frantic, insisting that he had been lost for days. As they debated what to do, he suddenly lunged at Sarah, attempting to grab her. Mike reacted instinctively, pulling Sarah back as they both fought to escape.